Okay, I'll call to order the August 4th meeting of the Eastham Select Board. This meeting will be video recorded and broadcast over local access channel 8 and through the town website at www.eastham-ma.gov. All right. Today's joke.
Oh, right.
Why do bees have sticky hair? No, that's close. They use honeycombs. All right, off we go. Now down to the agenda. Here we go.
And she got the.
Listen,
You're a keeper.
it was always people that laugh together, work together. Here it's people who grown together, work together better. So that's good. On the agenda, anything that's not on the agenda that anyone would like to bring up on the select board, Jamie?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the Pan Mass came through town on Sunday and both police and fire rescue departments did a fantastic job rerouting traffic and making sure everybody passed through town safely, both the cyclists and the drivers. I had to drive to Wellfleet, so I got to experience the full, the amount of work that went into it actually, and it was incredibly smooth and I was really impressed. So thank you.
That's great.
Yeah.
Suzanne, did you have something?
Pitch for the Eastham Senior Center's residential tax exemption workshop
Okay.
is going to be Monday, August 11th at 12:30 p.m. And they will help you. It says, please bring your most recent tax return, photo ID, and vehicle registration. And they will help you with redacting and copying. And if you don't have those pieces of information, to call the assessor's office, but wanted to.
And they did send out the second letter,
Mm-hmm.
I think, to anyone who hadn't
Who hadn't done it? Yeah.
applied.
Hard, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
It was a postcard.
A
so-
postcard,
Yeah.
sorry.
And it was very, as of this first day of the week, got over 30 people in today because of the postcard.
Because of
good.
postcards?
Good.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I have
Bob.
something too. Ed Sestero called me about the June meeting where we denied a commercial rate for his slip in Rock Harbor. And was just very nice, amiable, questioning the logic behind that. So I chatted with Jackie a little bit today and I asked her if she would go through what the rationale was for that denial. Just so that we knew, and I thought it might be here or someone representing him.
So basically, that came to you as an appeal of a natural resources decision. So it was a decision made by the Natural Resources Department that Ed's boat was recreational, not commercial, because we have 2 fees on that commercial dock, right? So we're trying to encourage commercial use of that dock. And so when we did the regulation change a couple of years ago, we changed it so that there were 2 sets of fees. So although Ed has been a shell fisherman for all of his life, he did not give the department any, he told me, he's had a couple of years where he hasn't been fishing, and so he didn't really have the proof of his commercial fishing sales, nor did he have the insurance that was appropriate for a commercial boat. He has recreational insurance, so sort of he could not produce that proof, and so they denied him that rate and they charged him the recreational rate. And you guys got the memo from the Natural Resources Department. We went through, I added my memo and the regulations, and you upheld their decision. So that's what happened. And he had already paid the lower rate, so he just has to pay the difference now.
Okay, thanks a lot for clarifying.
And that doesn't deny him for next year. If he does sell enough, he can go for the commercial rate. Anything else here? Well, I have one thing I wanted to personally thank the Orleans Firebirds for having the Eastham Day. The scouts from Eastham presented the colors. The rec children ran out with the birds at the beginning of the game. And then they honored the Council of Aging Veterans Club in the 4th inning. And it was just most of them are Vietnam vets or Vietnam era vets, and the recognition they got when they were in service was not always the best during that time. And the smiles on their faces were great. So thank you, Firebirds, and you're in the playoffs. You get first place. Let's hope you win them all now.
How did the pitch go, Bob?
Oh, Bob threw out the first pitch. Yeah.
I threw a sinker.
He threw a sinker. That's right. But it was at the play. The catcher could catch it.
Nice.
Good. He did. He's a lefty. He's a southpaw as
Oh, yeah.
well.
But did you hurt yourself?
He did
Not
not hurt
yet.
himself.
So-
Not yet.
That's a win.
Did you hurt yourself?
All right. Is
Should
there?
be my concern. I don't ever throw a ball.
All right.
Okay.
Anything else? Anything from the public, those here or online that's not on the agenda that I'd like to bring before us? Hearing none, let's go on to the next item. As you know, we will be in a search mode for replacement for Jackie, and 2026 is going to come faster than we think. And so this is kind of last meeting we heard from the attorneys. This meeting, we're going to hear from Rick White, who I happen to be in a discussion with the chair of the Truro Select Board. And I said, oh, I envy you. You're finished with your search and we're just starting. He says, oh, Rick White was just great and so forth. So the thought is, and Jackie knows him well, as does Lauren and Lori, and we will hear from him on some ideas of what we can, what he would recommend, what we could do, and so forth going forward. And then we might have a discussion afterward. He will likely have a proposal that we will discuss. So, Mr. White, you are welcome, and you may stand if you want, or you may sit. Just make sure the green light's on if you sit there. And we appreciate you taking the time to come here and help us as we begin our search.
Well, thank you. I think I'll sit and forgive me for that, but it's, convenience and age.
We're all
Mike,
sitting, so,
the
yeah.
mic a little closer to you and we'll be all set. Make sure the green light.
How's this? All right, there we go. All right, so I forgot where I was. My name is Rick White. I've left you all a card in front of you. You can't get those things printed in small volumes and have them be economical. So I give them away like candy. But if you have any questions about anything after this, I'm very accessible. It rings on my cell phone. I'll pick it up if I'm available, and if I'm not, I'll call you right back. But I encourage you to, if there's something we don't discuss tonight and you have questions about it, feel free to call me. So, a little bit about our firm. Grew White was established in the mid-90s by my former boss from Winchester, who also happened to be the town manager in Chatham. It used to be Grew Associates, and as long as I was employed and active in the field as being a town manager, I did most of the backroom work for Tom and supporting him, and Tom did most of the stuff like I'm doing now, being out in front for the company. When I retired from Dennis after 40 years of being a manager, Tom basically said, the company's now called Grew and White, and you're going to be the front man, and I'm going to be the backroom guy. So we do a lot of organizational development studies. I also do hostile work environment investigations for towns and searches. And for those who don't know me, I have no small motor skills, so I can't fix or build anything. So to keep busy in retirement, this is what I do. I had a career in Massachusetts for 40 years as a manager. It was fairly successful, but we all have a shelf life, and I moved from Lexington to Dennis, and really was amazed at how different Massachusetts communities are, and how specifically different the Cape Cod communities are. For those of you who don't know, I spent almost 20 years as manager in Lexington, which was an incredibly high-powered, demanding, entitled place that required a lot of its manager. And when I moved on, I came to Dennis expecting that things would be a lot lighter, and it would be a lot different and a lot less stressful. Little did I know that it would probably be the most intimate and the most demanding environment I've ever worked in. The Cape is unique. In many respects, it's well in advance where the profession is going, but in some respects, it's also stuck a little bit in terms of its way. Its citizens require a lot of its leader, and one of them is accessibility. And it's the only place I know where people still pay their tax bills in person. And on the last day of tax bills, there are lines out the door. And for whatever reason, going online and paying your tax bill or doing it by mail just isn't good enough. And most of them, after they've paid their bill, want to see the administrator to talk about something. And I was just amazed at the paradigm shift I had to make in terms of that. But it's informed a lot of my recruitment strategies, that every community is unique, and every Cape community has its own personality, because I've done a lot of searches in the Cape. And Eastham couldn't be any more different than Dennis, despite its similarities and its geographical similarities. But they do share some qualities that are important. And when we recruit, recruit for fit, as well as technical competencies. You can get the greatest manager in the world who works with a green shade and is the prisoner of the four walls of his office or her office, but they'll never be successful in Massachusetts, and in particularly on the Cape. The demand for intimacy, for interaction is incredible. The soft power that a town administrator has in the community, and the requirements for them to exercise it, is incredible. And it's like no place I've ever seen. And it's unique. And not every manager is like that. A lot of managers are, technocrats, and they're really good at what they do. But they're not so great at the types of things that you need someone from the Cape or Massachusetts to do. So we make a great effort to try to define the culture of a community before moving forward with any type of recruitment. And when talking to Jackie and Jerry, some of what we were talking seemed to resonate with them. That before you do your recruitment, you really should make an assessment of, what the culture is here, what you're really looking for, and not only with expectations and experience, but also what the community feels it needs, and what the staff feels it needs. And there again, I have a bias as a former professional. I thought I was the bee's knees as a manager. I didn't think there was anybody better. But I also knew deep down that I was only as good as the people that work for and with me, and that I really didn't accomplish anything other than, find them resources, organize their work, encourage them, move them in a strategic direction, and help them work through stuff. So gaining the perspective of especially you as the or the select board, gaining their perspective of what they think is important for their next leader, what skill sets, what attributes, which qualities, which values their next leader needs to have is critical. So when we do a search, and in talking to Jerry and Jackie, they felt it was important for you to scope out before you did your recruitment is, what is the staff looking for? And then, generally I will take 20 to 30 minutes to interview most of the staff, some of them a little longer, especially the finance people, because you really want to get a good feel for, the tick of a community, which is also how it funds itself, and what some of its restrictions are. And, from that, I write up a synopsis and I use it as a resource, not only for recruitment, but to help the select board understand, what some of their constituency is looking for in the next leader. But that's not really good enough either. So I asked the select board to identify 2 to 3, community leaders, people in the community that have a lot of soft power, that have a lot of influence in the community from their perspective, that care about the community and are involved in it. Maybe not directly, but, indirectly, but, their perspective matters to the community. And I ask them for their contact information and I interview them. And I go through the same process with them. I take their feedback and I write a synopsis of it. And then I sit down with I take those 2 synopses, I hand them to the select board as the basis of a conversation, give them some time to think about and read about the feedback. And then I contact each of you individually and interview you based on your perspective of what you've heard, what you've seen, what you've read, and where you agree and where you disagree, and how you would handle that in a recruitment. And then I take the same care in garnering your feedback and try to get what your consensus is as a board and write up a synopsis of that. That informs me when I write a recruitment brochure, but it also gives me a lot more detail than you would put in a brochure to help with the recruitment. And I use that as a backdrop to screen candidates and to make sure that not only do they have the technical competency to do the job, but they also are the right fit. As I said, there are a lot of good managers out there, but a lot of them wouldn't be good here. And, you deserve to have someone that fits and that's incredibly qualified, that the staff can admire and work strongly with, and do well with. Now, some people would look at 2 to 3 community leaders as maybe not enough. And, if you feel that way and want me to touch base with more, I'm happy to do that. I have found, however, uniquely, I've helped communities, and I'm not proficient in surveys. I can help them with surveys, and getting people's feedback on what they want in a town administrator is tricky, because the survey's got to be specific, but it can't be detailed. They're mostly value driven, and it's also, it's also not a significant survey, and nobody I've done a survey with has done a statistically significant survey with a confidence interval of 95%. I'm reaching all the way back into graduate school, my stats course, to try to impress you. But they're not random surveys. They're basically themed surveys. But uniquely enough, and surprisingly enough, everything that we've gotten back in surveys, I just recently did one with the screening committee in Swampscott, but when I did the Orleans survey, they did one there, was spot on exactly with the community leader feedback that I got. So, if you're looking to involve the community, even the survey that you get from the feedback that you get from the staff and you get from the community, if you want to do a survey, can help inform you and help you help your screening committee, if you have one, and you do a search, develop a survey that's helpful to you. Again, it won't be statistically significant. God, I need to say that at least 5 times to embarrass myself. But it is informative, and it is a way to engage the community, because everybody, I mean, I know Eastham and I know the Cape, they're all watching you. They're all, they all want someone good. They feel satisfied that they've had a stable leadership, not only administratively, but elected, and they don't want to change that. And they're going to guard that jealously. So, you as a board, when you do your search, and if you have a screening committee, you need to make sure that they feel that outreach, and we can help you with that. And the process of defining the fit and defining the values and what people want and how they want it is a critical piece to that. And I think that's what Jackie, Jerry, and I really focused on, at least on this phase. Now, going forward, we also talked about some of the challenges that you'll have with recruiting. But let me start off with some of the positives that you have. Eastham is a great community. It's got lots of stability. It's got a great population. It's interested in its government. It's not profligate in its spending, but it's not unsupportive either. And that's attractive for candidates. Earning your appropriation is not a bad thing. And it makes us all better managers, at least for the ones you'd want to recruit. It's also had just 2 managers in a very long time. And that is an incredible feat in of itself, with a profession where the shelf life is usually 3.4 years on average. And that's a reflection not only on the people that you've hired, but also on you. Every professional manager I know is only as successful, not only as the competency of the staff, but also of its leadership. If you represent the diversity of your community, but you can represent that diversity in a civil and constructive way, where the community benefits from your diversity of opinion, that you create stability and you create a great environment for the manager to work in. And it's a lot easier for the citizens to connect. So your history there is a real positive. I know many of the staff. I recruited some of them and trained them. And they're talented, and they're a real asset for you in recruiting. And there are also a number of projects and challenges that you'll have, not the least of it is, being wastewater, that really would motivate a professional or the type of professional that you want. And, those are all incredibly positive opportunities for someone to come in. And, that's something that, any recruiter in any brochure needs to accentuate. The challenges you have are, particular to the Cape, I guess. The recruiting pool is not as significant as, say, the greater Boston area. There are only so many Cape communities and there are only so many managers on it. And moving from the Boston area down here can be a challenge and not something that every professional might want to do. And, that in and of itself is difficult. Housing is also a challenge, although, not as challenging as the greater Boston challenge. And then, just a change in career focus that's happened through the generations. There's been a big void in talent since, and this again is self-serving and I apologize, since the baby boomers retired. It was a generation of people who really were focused on public service, making the world a better place. Growing up in the 60s and 70s, that was the value. And, that's what you focus on, or a lot of people focused on. So when I was applying for jobs, you probably had 180 people apply for a job and 45 of them were qualified. Now in a recruitment, if I get 35 people and 15 are qualified, I feel like I have a bonanza. And that's mostly because of the generations before us, the cultural focus wasn't necessarily on government service or making the world a better place, but on, mergers and acquisitions and making money and stuff like that. Not saying it's wrong and I'm not judging it. I'm just saying, every generation has its influences and that was one of them. The good thing is that that's changing and there's a younger generation of professionals that are committed to public service, that are committed to making municipalities a better place and want to be good. So, finding the right person, getting the right person and getting the community to develop a plan for them, for their professional development and for their growth in a place is the challenge. But it's not impossible. The other issue is, and it comes up in every community. When managers apply for a job, they take an incredible risk. And when they take that, when they put their name in, if they make it to the last finalists phase and they're one of 4 or one of 3, they've exposed themselves to their hiring board. And a lot of boards are generous and encouraging, and they want their professional to feel fulfilled, and if they feel like they have growth in them, to do it. Others don't, and they punish them, and it takes a long time for the professional to recover after applying for a job and not getting it. Now, if you get to that point and we're helping you, I'll help you frame your recruitment and your review of the candidates in a way that doesn't hurt them and it helps them. And every board hiring board I've ever worked with has been very sensitive to that. But if you have an internal candidate, that risk becomes even greater. Because if you're competing against someone who's within the organization that's already known, and you're one of the other three, and you expose yourself, then it communicates something completely different to the board. And there are a lot of candidates who just don't want to take that risk. So you have to determine whether or not you have any internal interest and how you want to handle that. There's a way to handle it before the recruitment, and there's a way to handle it afterwards. But it does impact a recruitment, and it's something that you have to think about carefully. And you know, we could help you with that if it gets to that. If you have someone internally who you think can meet all of the expectations that the community and the staff have, and you have, of your next leader, then there is also a process that I can help you with that avoids putting other professionals in an adverse way, because knowing what I know of you, I don't think any of you want to do that to someone. So, I think, Jerry and Jackie, that's essentially what we talked about. I probably dressed it up a little bit, went on too long, and if I did, I apologize. But I wanted to make it interesting.
No, thank you, Rick. I think one of the key things is your idea of where we start, and to interview staff being the first one, I think is really important. Whenever you get a new manager, no matter what job, whether it's in government or not, there's always angst in staff. And at least this is not one where the current manager you've worked with a long time is getting booted out. This is one where she's retiring, so it's a little bit safer, but there's still angst as what it is. And I think to start out and interview staff, it won't get rid of the angst, but it should lower it some to say that, yes, as a board, we are concerned with what you think. It's also, as a board, we know it's been a team. And based on the last town meeting, there was a vote on one article that showed that I think the town thinks that the staff works as a team, and is fairly positive. So I think that that's a great thing, a great way to start. One question I have for you, though, and I think it's one we had last meeting, whether you do a selection committee, search committee, whatever term we want to use or not, is something I'd like to ask you what your thoughts are. One of the negatives that we heard legally is that if we don't use a search or selection committee, everything is in the public domain. So every name becomes, well, maybe we can hide them somewhat, but you can't, but every name is there. So from your experience, would you advise Eastham to take the step to find another? We have lots of committees, but find another committee for this job.
Well, it wouldn't be New England and it wouldn't be Massachusetts if you didn't have a committee.
Yeah, we're good on that. I can tell you that.
And to be honest with you, having a committee like that, one, is a microcosm of what the world is going to look like for the new person coming in. There's going to be nothing. You can't be successful without working well, coordinated, and collaboratively with the committees in Massachusetts. And in fact, you don't have the staff or the bandwidth to do the types of things that you're charged with doing and expected to do without the benefit of a committee. So, just from a philosophical point of view and the connection, it's important. Legally, that's correct. If in fact, two things would happen. If in fact, you didn't have a screening committee, then I would be the screening committee. And you would be limited as a community to only those candidates, publicly that I recommend to you. I think you need more than that. I think every community needs more than that. I also think every consultant needs that as well. This is your show. It's not mine or someone else's. We're here to serve you. And although we have incredible influence just by nature of what we do and the support we give you, the real balance is ensuring that the committee and the community is making the decisions. And having a screening committee, allows, I still do all the work, I do the screening,
It's true.
I set up the meetings, I prepare the candidates, I help the committee, formulate interview strategies and questions. But, when the rubber hits the road, it's really who's evaluating them from what perspective. And I have a lot of influence with you or with the committee of framing the candidates. But, having a community perspective is critical and important. For the candidate, having been a manager and work with screening committees, I always felt a level of affection and kinship with the screening committee and a level of trust because they picked me. That helped me as a leader. And, when a screening committee member came in to my office to say, can I talk to you for a second? And, by the way, what are you doing over there? I don't really understand it. And, I trust you and I know you're trying to do something good, but, it's not resonating. And you don't come from a defensive posture on it because you already know that the screening committee's invested in you. So it's just, as a candidate, you have these friends for life. I still keep in touch with some of the screening committee members that I've worked with. And, they just are incredible resources, not only for the board, but for the candidate. So I would tell you, yes, definitely.
Maybe more
Suzanne.
importantly, I don't want the select board to be the screening committee. When we were asked that question on whenever we first started talking about it, I was like, oh, screening committee, please.
Yeah.
I do have a question though.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you had any examples of the questions that you might ask staff or community members to get them to flush out how they're feeling about it. Because if you asked me right now what I want in the next town manager, I would be like, ugh. But if you asked me prompting questions, I need the help.
Well,
But, like, there's like, people, when you ask them things, they know, but they don't know. So,
Well, the first thing I do is tell him some embarrassing and story about my own career to get them to understand that I'm a human being and that this is just me confidentially trying to tease out from them some information. Then we'd go directly to talking about Jackie.
oh, what did you like
and-
about her and what didn't you
and-
like about her?
And what she accomplished and how difficult she will be to replace.
Oh, lovely. I like that approach.
And then I try really hard not to ask specific questions at first. because I don't want to bias. I believe anything other than an open-ended question to the staff is moving them in a direction that's my direction as opposed to theirs.
It's true.
So the first thing I try to do is say, we all know Jackie was wonderful, but you and I, because she worked with me, know that she's not perfect.
Right.
So what do you want in your next boss? What are you looking for? And, generally from the responses I get, I can tease out some information, and based on their response, I'll ask specific questions. And then, I really want to understand, and this is critical, what the staff thinks the most important issues that are facing the town and challenges that the next town administrator have. But also some of the things that that haven't been addressed, that need to be addressed. I mean, I can remember, I probably was as much of a culture shock to the staff in Dennis than Dennis was to me, because I would ask the staff, ask for what we need.
Mhm.
Let's identify every single issue that we think needs to be addressed. But you're wasting your time, Rick. Nobody has the money to do it. I said, we have an obligation to identify it, to raise it as an issue, and to keep it current for the community to identify. And a lot of communities don't really do that. Let's be honest, most communities have financial structural challenges in that their costs are going up at a much higher rate than their ability to raise revenue. And even when they grow, the new growth doesn't accommodate the gap between it. So the staff is always operating from a scarcity perspective. I think it's critical that you uncover and identify for your next professional, what are some of the underlying issues that will be out there that haven't been addressed, that haven't been raised, that entirely should be, so that at least you'll have an alternative plan for it, even if you don't fund it, when it eventually comes and blows up in your face. And, let's be honest with you, if you got 25 of those issues, one or two of them is going to come back and haunt you. And nobody knows better than the staff what those are. It just takes a lot of time to tease them out and to get that, but we'll do that. And the same conversely is true with the community leaders. They have programs, needs, wants, desires, expectations of the government that have never been raised, but they think are critical and important. And I think you need to know that too. And, it's the same approach I take with the staff, I take with the community leaders. And, we go from there. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, and then my second question is if you had examples of some of the synopsises that you have done. I don't know if that's like if there's too much confidential information
No,
in them, but I'd be interested in seeing
I'll send Jackie when I
an
get home,
example. Yeah.
if the traffic isn't too bad. No, I can. I'll send Jackie.
I have a question.
Bob?
Do you provide any type of like template or the thing I always find interesting about interviewing is trying to compare when you're done, what were the responses, and you've obviously got to ask the same questions or something very similar. So how do you create that context between interviewees?
Generally, screening committees interview a candidate for an hour and 15 minutes. within that time, because us managers are such blowhards, you can only ask about 10 questions and still have a spontaneous back and forth where, you can ask follow-up questions that aren't on the list. But you need to have, in terms of equity and fairness, you need to have a set group of questions. At the start of it, I would send a screening committee about 66 sample questions that are generic, and ask them to come up with 10 or 11 of their own. And then I would spend some time with them teasing out the questions and adding an Eastham dimension to it, so that from the candidates, you get how much homework they've done. But within the time frame of that interview, I'm also coaching the candidates on being concise and direct, and not doing what I'm doing here, which is taking way too much time to answer a question. So that the committee has time to do follow-up questions, because it's really the give and take that matters. And, I'll be honest with you, with evaluations, I have a checklist when I do pre-screening, and it's, mostly where they're from. Do they have a bachelor's degree? Do they have a master's degree? Do they have more than 5 years worth of experience? Do they have management experience? Do they have leadership experience? Do they have experience in Massachusetts, because it's a very unique place? And do they have New England experience? Because, I mean, if you read any of the Federalist Papers, you know that Monroe and Hamilton had a fight over the form of government. Hamilton won every place but New England, and we have a much more participatory government structure than any place else. And I'm not saying that someone from Colorado can't make the adjustment, because they do, but they really have to be tested on it and constructed on it, because it is a very unique place. So that's the screening profile that we do, and I share it with the committee. But then for evaluation people, I live in Lexington. I worked there for 20 years. I'm used to, metric people and measuring people. So I have a form that identifies specific values that's flexible that I can put up there. And I have a range of numbers that people can use, 5 being the highest and 1 being the lowest, to evaluate candidates. But it's all subjective. There's no objective criteria. The real dynamic is whatever tool you use, you're transparent with it as a committee member, and you discuss it. And, my resume isn't here, but I'm also a trained facilitator. I don't facilitate much, but I do for processes like that. And I want to make sure that everybody's perspective on the screening committee is heard, not only heard, but considered, and, part of the evaluation process. And it's through, I think it's regardless of how you look at the metrics and whether you use them or not, it's really that group process that gives you the candidate that you think fits best.
Thank you.
Sure.
Amy or Jamie?
Questions? Oh,
No?
excited. Yeah, very helpful.
Yes. I think where I'd like to go, and excuse me for diverging a little bit, Rick, I think what I'd like to see happen is if we start off, I think we've had recommendations from both lawyer and a consultant to go with a search or screening. I think we have a search committee in town, so maybe it'd be a different name, a screening committee. And it's probably I'm ready to hear a motion to, yes, let's create a screening committee or not, and it's up to you, but I think if we're ready to do it, let's do it, get it done, and then we can get to just keep the process going. I think if Jackie worries about my angst that we're not gonna have it done, things done in time, but.
I don't
but-
worry about you at all.
You know, okay. But I think that's one of the things. So if anyone is willing to make the motion and we get a second, we need to have a discussion on it or whatever, I'm open to it.
I'll move that we go forward with the notion of implementing not a screening committee. Well, no, a
Screening?
screening committee, not a search committee. And I would like to do that tonight.
Second.
There's a second. Okay, any further discussion? Jamie? I know you missed last meeting, but hopefully you were able to hear
Yeah,
what the
no.
lawyer had to say.
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I just had one, I guess I did have one question. Moving forward, when we do create the screening committee and the recommendations obviously are gonna be brought to the board. What happens if there's discrepancy? Like the screening committee has one recommendation, the board feels differently. What happens if that's a scenario?
Well, my hope is that you'd see the recommended candidates that the screening committee has identified because they do the hard work.
Right.
And if you're not satisfied with them, you reopen the search,
Mhm.
ask them to go back and look at the portfolio of candidates and see if they can come back
Okay.
with others.
Just curious. I don't anticipate that. I just like,
But they'll give you the amount you designate. So
right.
3, 4, probably 3. I don't know.
Forrest is
Strong.
right in the pocket.
Yeah.
More than that, candidates get wary.
Yeah.
Because there's too, the
Yeah.
Too many levels.
Yeah,
too much chance of them not getting the job.
yeah.
The other strength that you have, and I apologize for not mentioning it, as much anxiety as Jerry has for Jackie leaving and the timetable, the fact that you're thinking about it now and planning for it now is the exception, not the rule. Most communities we work with suddenly find themselves looking for an interim,
Oh, yeah.
have a month to go and turn to me and say,
Oh,
can you get this done
yeah.
in 6 weeks?
So you're looking at us like, you're fine.
The
You're
fact
right.
that you're actually thinking about
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
really is going to resonate with the candidates in
That's
terms of defining.
Partially is a
who you are.
plus to Jackie for giving us notice as well.
She does live here.
Thank you.
I'm not leaving you in the lurch.
I'm not leaving us in the lurch. Any further discussion? Go for a vote. All in favor of creating a
Screaming.
screening committee?
We could just give it a different name.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. That's great. Okay, now, the next step is we have a possibility here, and I know it's not like we've done a full search on this, but we have a possibility to actually start the process with a contract with Rick for just talking to staff, talking to us, and talking to the number of community leaders that, as long as it's a reasonable number, that we give him. He has presented an idea of, is it 5,000? Of doing that for $5,000. It's below the minimums that we have to worry about. And look, this is, again, I said my angst, but this is part of it. This can get this started right away. And I think it would be wonderful to start it right away and start with staff so that they know that this board wants to know what they think, because I think that's true. So I guess I think I can make a motion. I make a motion that we
Oh,
Uh,
thank you.
we accept the contract with Grow White Consulting for $5,000 to begin our search process by interviewing staff, community leaders, and the select board on our desires for the next town manager.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just a
James, Amy?
quick follow-up on that about the community members. When do you want us to give some names?
Yeah, I got a list.
Well,
Okay.
let's,
ready.
let's see how this goes and then we'll
Oh, there.
get the procedure if we're gonna go forward with
Got
it
it.
of how we inundate Rick with names, if that's what we're gonna do. Any other discussion? All right.
Yeah,
Yes,
if you could give me a sample of your work, that'd be great. I would like, I just want, I don't know. I want to see what it looks like.
Oh, see what
Yeah, I'll still vote.
You'll have it tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
Just
Yeah,
to see.
the sample.
Need a sample of
summary,
what
of
he's
the
gonna
sum-
give
Of
you?
the summary of like what,
Expect.
yeah, like,
I'll give you a copy of our, it also includes doing a brochure for the recruitment. so you
yeah,
have it.
it'd be nice to see.
So
for
I'll
sure,
give you a copy of one we just did.
You know,
All right,
I haven't seen
thank you.
anything you've written, so.
All right. Are you still okay with a vote? Because I don't want, listen, we're working as a team here too, you know, we're making an example. Bob?
What is the outcome, the success criteria when you do this interviewing? Do you come back with a write-up of, you know, what the most common themes were or that kind of thing? You just sort of shoot an arrow through everything horizontally and try to tie things together?
I try to tell a story and I try to identify all the issues that were raised.
Okay.
And I try to do it with a combination of description and quotes. So if I guarantee people that I interview with that the feedback I get is confidential and I won't reveal who they are. But I try to put as many quotes in there that backs up any assessment I make of what I hear so that you can see it in real time.
So that's there's the factual data and then there's your opinion.
My
Your
assessment.
assessment.
Yeah.
Okay, so part of the outcome of that interview process is recommendations?
Sometimes, yeah. Specifically, I can give you a couple of copies. I mean, it depends on. I mean, I did one in Belmont and I had 3 pages of recommendations coming from the staff around finances and organization and structure. And, you know, I'm not sure how helpful it was to the board because they didn't have an interest in it, but, you know, I wanted to represent what the staff gave me.
Jackie?
And I think it's important to note that part of the process, so once he once he has his conversations with staff and his conversations with the community, he's going to meet with each one of you to go over those things. So I think you'll have a chance individually to have a give and take with Rick about what his synopsis is too.
And please feel free between now and when I start, if you've got more questions or just want to talk about this, call me. I'm not bashful and I pick up the phone.
Any further questions or anything? Ready for a vote? Oh,
One more
Dan.
question.
Yes.
So it would be possibly in 2 pieces. He's going to do the interview part, and then we would come back and see if we wanted him to work with the committee as well. With
Yeah.
the committee?
Yes,
Okay,
we
so
could
we've
go further.
separated it.
This
Okay.
is just
To do the
just
interviews.
the beginning to get that started. If
Okay.
we want to go further, I mean, if whatever feedback we get, we're not satisfied, you know, we can do other things, but it goes only as far as those interviews and potentially brochure.
Okay.
And then we have a decision to make on further. Right, we ready? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
5-0.
Well, thank you for your faith in me and I appreciate it.
Well, it was a shock when I was just talking with Susan of Truro Select Board, where out of the blue, she says, "Oh, Rick White," it was just, that usually doesn't happen in my experience in my government time.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Oh, well, wait, well,
No.
Rick, before you depart,
Let me sit back down.
right, yes, have a seat. We're gonna go to what Amy raised. Okay,
Oh,
so
goodness.
we have, each of us has 20 people. No,
No.
we want you to talk with, I'm just
15.
saying, how do you want us to go this, I mean, staff is staff, you know, they're here, but community, and there's 5 of us, but then the community leaders is a different kind of number, and we're gonna talk and come up with names or how we want to do it. How do you like to receive it? What's worked, what hasn't worked in the past for you?
I talked to Laurie, who is going to coordinate with me.
Mhm.
So, for the staff, she'll schedule meetings and sequences for me. I'd ask that you give, and I will work very closely with Laurie. So if you don't get an answer you're satisfied with, she'll be part of it, as well. If you could give the names and contact information to the people, to Laurie,
Mhm.
so she can assemble it for me, and she and I will work something out. If she wants to be involved, I'm happy to do that. She might have better things to do. We'll talk about whether or not she should be involved with the staff interviews for the confidentiality part. They may or may not feel comfortable with that.
Just shook her head.
Pardon?
She
Yes.
did back there.
She's
I
shaking her head
did
behind you.
speak with the lawyer on that, just, and I actually mentioned Lori's name, and then I went and apologized to her, says, well, that doesn't mean you can't apply if you want to apply, which means you couldn't be that person. And she assured me her name will not be put in the hopper on it. So Lori is, I think we all have confidence in her, and it's up to, I guess, the committee will decide if they want, but that's fine with us. Working with Lori is just fine.
You have another question, Amy? Because I have a question. Surprise, surprise.
Good. Yeah.
So well, it might not be for you. It might be like among us have like 15 people on the list, and it doesn't necessarily include people I have asked if they're interested.
Right.
And so obviously, and there might be some overlap in our lists. And but it seems like that would be more people. And so I'm wondering how we go about picking the
Yeah, how
community
many
members.
Agenda item.
Yeah, I think that's an internal process for
Yeah.
you guys. Like
Yeah.
if you want to, I mean, I can't imagine anyone in our community that would hear their name in a meeting as a potential to be canvassed in the search process to go, oh my God, that's terrible. I have they might say, no, we don't have time for it, but I don't think they'd be offended to hear their name. So I think
Yeah.
you can talk about it.
Put it on our next agenda
Yeah.
and
Yes.
compile that list, pass it to Lori and.
Okay.
Yep. All right.
That they
that's-
may, and then that they may. be
How many
included.
would you talk to, committee members?
Well, I'd rather not have it be 100,
You
but,
say
Yeah, right. So she said 50, she had 15.
Right.
He said
Was it
3.
15,
I'm curious.
15 max?
Yeah.
15 each would be a little much.
No,
No.
15
If-
maximum for
Said-
total,
That's-
15 max.
Yeah.
15 max.
It is a lot.
That's a
But
lot of people.
I'm not a rules guy, so if it was 18, I'm not going to cry.
Don't
Um,
tell them that.
No, yeah. If it was 12, you might clap. All right. That's all right. No, Rick, we appreciate it. Thank you for your time. And
Yeah.
we'll be in touch. We
Thank you.
know.
Drive safely.
Yes.
Well, it's 128.
I know, it's a long
128.
Oh, but it's this.
3-hour drive.
Now it's called 95, right?
28
128 is 95.
going to Lexington.
Part of it?
Someplace.
Lexington. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. On to the next part of the agenda. Appointments, Council on Aging's Stacy Scott, and Visitors Tourism and Promotional Services, Linda Fisher, and I think, did you do that, Amy?
I did both of these interviews.
Both, yes.
So I will happily make a motion to appoint Stacy Scott to the Council on Aging Board and Linda Fisher to the Visitor Tourism. They're both very well qualified candidates, very interested, and yeah, just really want to contribute. So
Yeah, I read the stuff. It looked good.
it's nice when you
Second,
get.
we have a second from Bob. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? 5-0. Okay. Next, the Timothy Smith Fund. Well, I had the pleasure of finally interviewing Madeline Schnitzer, and she was just a wonderful person. And I think this is a tip of the hat to Nauset Public Schools. She was interested in kind of always redecorating her room, and there was an architecture class for freshman year, and she decided to take that, and off she went and loved it. And then we also had a good discussion because she's going to Roger Williams, and I know the university as my niece went there, and she's very much interested in what she's doing, and I think she would be great getting this. So I enthusiastically recommend Madeline for the Timothy Smith Fund loan.
I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Right, opposed? None? 5-0. Next, are the Community Preservation Act grant agreements, which I think we just have to sign because these were passed at town meeting. So we don't, so the paperwork is coming through to signing them. That would be, was the Deacon Payne? Yes, that was on it too. Yes,
Yep.
okay. All of those, we'll get that. So we're done with that.
Yes.
It's just informational. Eastham Community Fund discussion. And I think that's Rich or Jackie, you're gonna start that.
Richard.
Richard.
So in your packet, there's a one pager. It says Select Board Policy Establishing the Eastham Community Fund. So as you recall, it started out as a taxpayer assistance fund, which molded into the legislation being named the Town Eastham Resident Taxpayer Assistance Program. And in my mind, we initially had envisioned this to be a bit bigger than just that. And so I wanted to put this in front of you. The town already has by statute the ability to accept contributions. So there's nothing out of the ordinary here other than formalizing a program through the select board and asking the select board to have this policy and to specifically adopt funds or purposes for which you might want to select to solicit contributions. And so the Resident Taxpayer Assistance Program being the first one that you've adopted. And then down on the bottom of the page, there's some ideas that have come up recently in conversations with folks that might be interest. And my thought would be not that you have to make a decision tonight on new programs, but if we could get the overarching policy adopted, and then in the future, we can add funds with a vote of the select board. The idea here is we do have a lot more ability, communications platforms nowadays, and some desire in the community for people to donate some money. So this is a mechanism for the select board to kind of corral that into one central spot. And with town meeting passing the prudent investment policy, I'll be talking to the finance committee when we do our policy review about adopting an investment policy and having a at least one, if not more, people on the finance committee on an investment committee so that we can start actively managing the funds that we do have and be good stewards of these various funds that we might adopt. So we're trying to build this up into a larger program that hopefully will improve community engagement and in community interests too.
All right, so this is stating the policy that we're going to have this community fund, and of which a subset of that is something we already have, which is the Residential Taxpayer Assistance Program. And it just, it sets it up, and then we have the ability to, I don't know if you need town town meeting approval on some of these things, but we have the ability to then expand uses of these funds within the context of the Massachusetts general statutes.
You can accept contributions for really almost anything,
Oh,
and you'd
mhm.
be required to honor any restrictions a donor would have put on them as
Okay.
well. It's always up to you to accept those or not. This kind of formalizes it for purposes of us to brand it and market it and let the community know that it's something that exists and these are the programs that the select board is looking for.
Sure.
Very.
Right. We'll start with Bob.
Just a question, a suggestion. I thought when we put this together, Jamie, you and I drafted something. Was it 200% of the AMI or was it 250%?
It's 200, no?
Was it really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fine. The only other thing with it sort of jumps off is if you put in 2024 community, CPA affordable housing, wouldn't we have to change it every year? I mean, don't you want to put something in about current year or year prior or something so that it's just,
Well, that was the policy. Those are the guidelines for the resident taxpayer assistance program. I was including in the packet just as an example. So I wasn't really planning on going back.
oh, I
We've
see.
already adopted that for this year.
That makes
But
sense.
you're right. Next year we'll have to update these. And the idea was that we probably would because we got the 1 year of experience now, right? So,
Okay.
but you're right. In the future, we would try to make it continuous.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and it says guidelines for FY 2026 up top of that one, yeah. Suzanne, you had a question?
I mean, I mostly was telling you that Bob had a question, but I
Okay.
do have questions.
Right, go ahead.
What is a community endowment? What would,
Oh, and the ideas?
yeah, the potential ideas, like you had mentioned Gardens and Markets Fund, but I'm wondering maybe if you plan to go over what the other ones
Yeah,
are.
so a couple of the ideas that we've heard, there are actually several people that would love to have an endowment fund. What endowment fund means is people contribute money for the long-term betterment of the town, and you do not use the principal of that money. And you invest it over the long term and generate income, and then that income can be used.
Oh,
It's whatever rules you set up for the community endowment. But for example,
Oh.
perhaps you would say, we're never going to touch this $1 million of principal that's invested. And it's going to generate X amount of dollars, and we're going to allocate those dollars amongst all our approved funds in a certain methodology.
okay, and then,
Timothy Smith Fund.
I was just gonna say Tim
Mhm.
Smith was that.
yeah, and about the beautification fund?
A lot of interest in townwide beautification efforts. We already have the Flower Island folks, and that's
Right.
not part of this necessarily. It's
Right.
they do a lot of amazing and great work in keeping the town looking really nice. Maybe there's other avenues that people would like to have certain facilities look a certain way. Now we've got a designated location for that to happen.
Okay,
Because we already do have a lot of contributions, each department, police, fire, COA, the libraries, recreation, they all have donation accounts
Mm.
and they're all over the place.
right,
So this gives us an opportunity to kind of, they can still have them. And if people want to leave money to them the way they always have, they can still do that. This just kind of consolidates some of these funds into one spot for active management.
and Helping Hands Fund? They
So
were
we
just
have-
a little vague for me.
So right now we have, I think, an old article that was voted to provide support to residents that had an urgent need that couldn't be bridged by a local human service provider.
Okay.
And so this would be money to make that a permanent thing. And because right now I think we got a few $1,000s left in that account and then it's gone, it's gone.
Jamie?
So I guess I just have a question about like the goal. So the goal right now is simply to collect funds for the community fund that goes to the residential taxpayer assistance program, and that's it. But are you saying you want us to create a list of potentials or just be thinking about it?
So some communities have branded programs, like Wellfleet's got the One Fund. I can't think of the names of other towns, but other towns have a mechanism to solicit and receive contributions. That's a designated program of the city council or their select
Right,
board.
like you check the box of where you want your donation to go.
And you guys set the guidelines. You might say, well, anybody can create a fund. And this is kind of what happened in the old days. There's a lot of these small departmental, if somebody gave $100, I want it to be the Rich Bienvenue. library fund, if I had a library fund for $100 and now it's $101, 30 years later. You might set a minimum amount, you don't want to have a million funds, but you've got funds that accommodate small contributions for what people are trying to do.
I guess I get the only like sticky point for me in all of this is that like balancing the need of our residents. What do people really need versus things that are nice to have, right? And if you're saying you're making this donation and we're giving people the option to say, I just want it to go to gardens. I want it to go to gardens in this market, I just feel like that could potentially be doing the residents a disservice in the long run. Because the need for our residents lies more in, at this point in time, taxpayer assistance, housing, scholarships, the Helping Hands Fund, maybe things like that. And so I guess I just get a little like, we put all this work into developing the community fund with the idea that it's going toward residents who need help. And then to see, this idea that like we would divert that toward something like gardens. I don't know. I just don't, maybe I'm not ready to.
Well,
That
they could
way.
do it now. So if somebody wrote us a check for
Yeah, I
$1,000
mean,
because we like the farmer's
I
market.
think it's different when
Would
you
we-
get a mailer and there's boxes you can check where you can choose where your money goes.
Well, that's
right?
kind of the point, is now it's a established program, it's in your control. So if you don't want to establish that fund because you don't think it's important, or whatever the reason may be,
I don't
then
think
you
we-
wouldn't establish it. But if you think you want to establish it, but you want to encourage people to direct it to here first, I think that's a powerful point of having a
Right.
defined program. So now you might have one that's of lesser need, but people still have an interest in contributing to,
Right.
but you're going to encourage this other avenue too. So I think it's a powerful tool for communicating, the values of the town and the select board and where you think my funds need to go. Absent something like this, somebody will send in a check and say, can you create a new fund on the ledger, and we'll do that, and it'll sit there and it won't be really doing much.
No, that's not, I see your point. I see your point.
And people will, my experience, people do contribute to what they want to contribute to, very specific.
True. I mean, they're not gonna say like, oh, I only have to keep it, so I'm not going
Yeah.
to. They're just not gonna give the money because they want it to go toward
Right.
Effie or whatever it
Yeah,
is that,
yeah.
yeah.
So Amy, did you have a question over
Mhm.
there? You guys are all on the other side of me. So you mentioned that there are a number of other funds floating around among the departments. Are you hoping to are you hoping that we take on the consolidation of some of the intentions of that?
I have to talk to all the departments first. We're not, other than the library, we're not talking a lot of substantial monies.
Yeah. Well, okay, yeah, but if there's like a way that you wanted it cleaned up or organized, not library included, then, or I'll let you guys figure that out with the library.
Amy, you have anything else? So Rich, what you're looking for is a motion to accept, let me get my glasses on so I can read it properly. A select board policy establishing the East Dam Community Fund.
Yep.
And we'd like a motion on that.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Sorry, do we do this every year? Did we not already?
No, I don't recall we did do
accepted the language.
taxpayer, we worked on the taxpayer assistance fund as a start
And we approved the fund
doing that.
and then we needed the policy to go with the fund.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Process matters.
It's the process. Yeah.
You-
Yeah.
you-
I
well,
understand.
Sometimes you have to jump through hoops. Any further discussion, questions? Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? 5-0. So that's set. Now I go back to my agenda. What's next? There's bookmarks in here and I don't know how to use the bookmarks. Somebody's gonna show me that. All right, that's all right.
Africa School.
Which ones?
Okay.
It's all right. Don't worry about
The
it.
same spot as mine.
All right.
Oh, yours looks different.
His also looks different.
We're good. We're good.
But you-
Uh,
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is the inclusivity
Gotcha.
declaration, which
And it works.
was raised quite a while ago, and I sent around just a really short, since remember it's the 14 whereases, and mine was just 2 sentences just about, and Jackie put something else, another thing together, and it's sitting in our agenda, the agenda packet here is it, where Jackie's, which you did a great job, Jackie, had written a piece and discussing Massachusetts law as well, saying we're there, and so we're open to discussion on that and whether or not we like it, whether or not we want to adopt it or not.
Thought it was well done.
Me too.
I would be happy to adopt it.
Okay. I
As is.
forgot the G again, but Eric is gonna fix it.
There's a G in mine.
Oh, good. There's a G in yours. You're awesome.
See, it's all fixed. It was
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So do we want, now, it would be, you've got the statement and then you attached some of the laws that we have,
That's
but
new. That's all
we
new.
would just have these statements.
Right. We just want to have this statement, but Suzanne had asked me to produce the law for her, so I,
That's good. You're on the ball, Suzanne.
I do appreciate that. And
I think it goes to what the concerns are with the transgender community especially, but also, just preserving your rights to the
Yeah.
healthcare that you want, period, as a
We're-
human.
We're- There's
I love Massachusetts. I'm very
Massachusetts is
proud to
great
be
state.
a resident of Massachusetts, and our Attorney General is working very, very hard to preserve the rights of the citizens of Massachusetts. I
great,
think they should get some credit.
yep.
Great time to be setting.
So do I hear a motion to adopt the inclusivity declaration that appears in our packet?
So moved.
Second.
Second from Amy. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
All opposed? None? 5-0.
Do you like Coretta Scott King too?
I liked
Do-
the quote at the end.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's fine. Community, it's special. 6, item 6 is the CPC wastewater update.
Rich, do you want to talk about the whiff? The whiff?
With,
So I've, now that the wastewater vote has passed and we're moving through our design process, we have a design workshop on August 19th,
Mhm.
60% design. We'll be reviewing, the mock-ups and the schematics and, the estimates.
Cost estimates. Yeah.
As part of the funding plan that we'd all been contemplating all along, we had several things that we had to do, most of which we handled just internally. But there are 2 decision points, one on adopting a wastewater infrastructure investment fund, and a second one on potential betterments on commercial properties. So right now, the low-hanging fruit is the WIF, the wastewater infrastructure investment fund, appropriately acronymed. So I've talked to the finance committee about that and the capital projects committee about that. And at this point, it's probably appropriate to engage with the community preservation committee, because obviously it's impactful to them, or potentially impactful to them. So we want to let you know and remind you of our funding plan, that the funding plan did include about $600,000 from the wastewater infrastructure investment fund, which is similar to the CPA surcharge of 3%. Law allows us to adopt another surcharge. Doesn't have to be at the expense of CPA, but the proposal was. You can have a 3% surcharge and you can have up to a 3% surcharge for the WIF. You could have 2 3% surcharges for a total of 6%. But that's all impactful to property tax. So the idea here was to try to be as relatively neutral to the property tax as possible going through this wastewater process. And so that funding plan proposed adopting a 1.5% WIF and then reducing this community preservation surcharge by 1.5%.
So it would be 3 total.
So still a total 3% surcharge on the property tax bill, but essentially just reprioritizing. We've had the CPA fund now for 25 years for the 3 legal purposes plus recreation. And perhaps there's now a time to reprioritize and say that wastewater has got to be a part of that. So that's the proposal. And I'll be going to CPC about it. I don't need your vote on it. What I think we'll do is try to get a recommendation from the, probably the CPC to you.
Right.
And this would be an article that would be leading up to town meeting. So we need an article to adopt the WIF, and we need an article to reduce the CPA surcharge.
That would pass.
That would be, yes, I'd love to hear what the CPC committee, what the committee has to say on that and where it is. Now, what that would do would put about $600,000 towards wastewater without, which would not impact the tax base.
Right.
It would impact the amount of funds that goes to CPA, but it wouldn't impact the tax base. Okay.
For what time period again?
Well, it's in effect until you change your mind. The reason this has come up because just about, I guess it's been 4 years or 5 years at this point, that the CPA provision sunsetted. It was a 20-year law that you could, once you adopted the CPA back in 2001, I think it was, you couldn't change it, or 2000, you couldn't change it for 20 years. So that 20 years expired. And then just at that same time, the state came up with this WIF fund that you could adopt. So several communities on the Cape, I kind of led the charge in Yarmouth, and then Dennis adopted it, Harwich has adopted it, and I think Sandwich has adopted it now, where they increase the WIF surcharge or create the WIF surcharge and reduce the CPA. But it's not uniform. Our proposal has been split at 1.5 and 1.5 for the same 3. I believe Dennis did a reduction of 3% to 2% on the CPA and then adopted a 2% WIF. So they actually added 1%.
Oh.
So there's all different variations of what you could do. Ours was to keep it property tax bill neutral.
That's
Would, at a time when we vote on a recommend, it would be something, well, would we be able to, 5 years down the road, Eastham to say, we really want the CPA to get to 3% and get the full state funding, whatever the
Yes.
minimized match they have, but we could change that. This is not,
Fixed.
Permanent.
it doesn't stop us from going back to 3% for CPA in the
Not at
future.
all.
No,
Okay.
but you'd have to go through the same process.
Got to go through a process, get town meeting and so forth, yes.
So you mentioned $600,000, and I'm wondering how many years of collecting this it would take to get to $600,000.
1 year.
1 year. Oh, so it'd be $600,000 every year.
annually.
Right.
The third year.
That was the
That's
time
what,
scale
that's what the
thing,
one and a
it
half,
was like-
I'm sorry, I
Okay.
jumped to that because that's what the 1.5% on
Represents.
1.5% represents $600,000. So if you wanted
Okay.
to get 1.5%, 1.5% for WIF and not drop the CPA funds, it would be an increase
Right.
to the tax burden of $600,000 spread across, which I think is about $100 on the median tax bill.
It's just a little technical point though, just to keep in mind, it's a surcharge.
It's a
So it's not a
surcharge.
tax rate add, so it's 3% of your tax bill. So if you have a more valuable home, that 3% of something bigger.
Yeah,
is
it goes
bigger.
up, yes, but that's right.
But in terms of the CPA, they're already paying it now. We're not adding something.
Not
We're
adding it,
actually
that's right.
repurposing money that's going towards one thing, and we're asking the town to put it towards wastewater while we're in our wastewater funding
Right.
path.
And I think to your point, and this is what I'll have to tease out for the CPC, I'm sure, Jerry, but it was a good point. Because I'm working on the multi-year projections for the finance committee. And last month we did the debt service projections. And, in the next upcoming years, we're adding a lot of debt, but the way we're funding it keeps it relatively property tax neutral. And that's only going out, I think I went out 6 or 7 years on that one, just to capture a couple of big years. But after that, we do have debt drop off for other things. And that might be an opportunity where you want to, if you're not purposing it for something else, that you can reutilize it to get the CPA back to where you
CPA.
want.
All right. So this was informational for us. All right.
Good information.
Potential wastewater position, I don't know what that, oh, yes, I know what that is. Go ahead. Potential wastewater position.
So we've been talking at the Capital Projects Committee about moving forward into, well, wrapping up on the design phase and what that design phase impacts how you operate your plant down the road. But then also looking forward to the construction phase, the need to have somebody on our staff that can appropriately respond to, because there will be citizens, wanting information about what's going on their road, what to expect. Things will need to be lined up as far as getting people, engineers and connections, and any myriad of issues that could arise. So we want that person on board for the construction phase. The alternative, like you did with water, is it could be becomes part of a consultant's contract, and it costs us, just costs us much more money. Whereas we could have somebody on staff that can handle a lot of that and work partnership with the OPM and the contractors. So there's that, but there's also the desire to have someone during the design phase that understands the future operation. So when the architects and engineers propose certain things in certain locations to operate a certain way, that person can say, well, I saw that in a plant in, Western Mass or wherever they're from, and that didn't work out, and here's why. And you can capture some design elements up front before they become problems when you need to operate the plant 2 or 3 years down the road. So
And we'll have a staff person that can carry us, will understand the operations going when all the consultants leave. So we're not dependent on outsourcing
and
everything.
that's kind of where we are now with water.
Mhm.
We're wrapping up water, and we really need somebody. So, look far in the future as we get through the wastewater project. I would envision this person, overseeing the water ops contract and the wastewater ops contract. They're not going to operate the plants themselves, but hopefully they'll have the licenses, which will reduce our need to contract out for licenses. So it'll be a cost savings. But also, just more importantly, having somebody that oversees and supervises the contracts and making sure we get what we're supposed to be getting out of them. We do have funds through some careful stewardship of some different grants that we were able to get that we put into the wastewater capital project fund. So we do have some unrestricted funds that would support this position before next year, which we'd try to get it into the budget. And if we try to get it in the budget, in my mind, that's coming off the $1.5 million of total operating costs that we kind of were going with to the town meeting with. It's part and parcel of that money.
So is this a position that we have to approve?
No,
No.
No.
We just wanted you to know we're heading in this direction because, I think we feel strongly that we shouldn't be creating a position with temporary funds, construction funds or otherwise. So the intent would be that it will have to go into the operating budget and that will cost money. But Rich's point is, we already told town meeting that it was going to cost us
There's
$1.5
money.
million a year to run
Yes.
the plant. This will be part of that cost.
Yep.
It's already been worked into it.
So it wouldn't necessarily be a temporary position for somebody. Okay.
Full time.
And I think it's smart to get them in, like
Yeah.
I said, as we're designing, as we're getting it
As it
going.
goes through,
So then they know what,
right. And they can potentially catch a problem beforehand, potentially. And the idea of, would you be looking for someone who also, well, I assume you'd be looking for someone also could pick up the water as well as just wastewater.
That would fall under that.
yeah, because just to give you a little bit of detail on some of this, one of the reasons our water operations contract is so high is the DEP required us to have 3 licensed operators in town. when it used to be, was it 1 or 2? So I would hope that we could find somebody that has that licenses, and then we can go back to our consultant and say, hey, can we modify our contract? We only need 2 of you now, we don't need 3. So I, ultimately, between 2 ops contracts, I'm thinking this is a cost savings if we find the right person.
Right.
Because they're, if you're in a typical consulting business, you got whatever you pay your staff, and you mark it up 3 or 4 times, and that's your billing rate.
Right.
So it's costly for us to buy these on contract if we can get somebody in-house.
All right.
And the town still plans to have it be a contracted service.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. At
Okay.
least for the relative near term.
Okay.
That
Similar
would have to
to-
be a process to evaluate if you're ever gonna shift that.
Yeah. Well, Orleans has theirs contracted out, who's running their shop too. All right. Any further questions on that or anyone really upset with it or anything? All right. Jackie, town managers reports.
So I just wanted to add a couple of things that came in. Shayna sent me a couple of things that I wanted you to hear, and I will write them into my next town manager reports, so they'll be on the website, but I just wanted to just brag a little bit here. So Shayna informed me that we received 495 responses to the open space and recreation plan survey. That is more than we got for tea time. It's an enormous response for a regular general survey. Eastham is just remarkable in their desire to let us know what they think. It's great. And key themes included expanding recreation programming in the winter months, needing a community center and pool, numerous requests for lifeguards and swimming lessons, and concerns included biking safety, encounters with off-leash dogs, and litter at recreation and conservation facilities. But overall, the majority of respondents reported very positive experiences at our rec facilities, so that's good. And then the Climate Action Committee workshop on Tuesday, July 29th, had about 30 residents attended. I guess it was a good showing. And there'll be a future workshop scheduled in the fall.
All right. And thank you, Rich, for going and welcoming them at that
Yes, we had to split up.
committee. We had to split up as we were working on some school stuff. Do we have any new upcoming agenda items and need for follow-ups? Well, clearly, we're going to have the agenda item on the selection committee. And and the community leaders that Rick will interview.
We'll discuss
That
that.
will be in the next meeting. Anything else that anybody wanted to?
I talked to Jackie earlier about the Lower Cape TV
Mhm.
and talking about those issues, and we're gonna be having a new person coming on board here.
Mhm.
So talk about Channel 8. And
So we're gonna put that on our next.
Agenda? So it's good. Yes, Suzanne was raising that at our agenda meeting.
great.
Is that Bob? No?
Nothing for me today.
Okay. All right. To minutes, looking at the Monday, July 21st minutes of our regular session. Does anyone have any corrections, additions, comments? All right, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second?
Second from Amy. All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None? And I think the next thing on my agenda, other business correspondence, I don't think there's anything that I saw on that. Oh, there was one thing I wanted to ask. Looking at the sheet of what's coming up in next meetings, my understanding, I didn't see it. My understanding is that we will have we will talk about setting the tax rate, which will include whether we have an RTE at the first meeting in September. Is that the schedule? Because I didn't necessarily see that on there.
Still the plan.
Still the plan? Okay, I didn't I don't, maybe I misread it, but I just didn't see it on that, sheet. So that's, so everyone knows, that's when we'll do it, first meeting in September, and that will give you enough time to get the bills out, what, October 1st or something
Right.
like that? Yeah. All right. Do I hear
Last
uh,
page.
a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Second from Amy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Uh,
Opposed?